warming. But the global warming that he thought it was to cool down the Earth. And his friend looked at him like, what the f- are you talking about?
So he thought the fans were turned on so they can cool down the Earth.
That's right. That wind turbines
and you have a problem with that interpretation?
Don't scratch your eye and act like I'm insane. Like, I just...
I'm not the one who said Thanksgiving wasn't real.
I didn't say Thanksgiving I meant like the weekend after.
Oh, so it doesn't exist.
We just go from Thanksgiving to like Monday morning. That's basically what Jonesy was saying. We don't have a weekend after Thanksgiving.
But do you want to talk all of Arcane up to now and then season 2, or do you? Or
that's what I thought we were doing. Like I would have to refresh my brain about season 1.
I could do that.
That's cool. We can talk
let's
about
do it all. No, let's do. Let's do.
I actually had, like, again, just rewatching it or watching it for the first time again. Sorry, forgot.
Okay.
It's very fresh.
We'll get to this in a bit, but first things first, before we dig into Arcane. So essentially, if you're listening, we're going to be covering Arcane seasons 1 and then 2/3 of season 2 because we're not logical in how we do things. And then I'm assuming when we get back eventually, the weekend, 2 weekends after Thanksgiving, we'll probably finish the whole, do a whole retrospective on the series in some capacity. So there we go. But before we do that, something incredibly interesting happened this past 2 days ago, a couple days ago, and we talked about this a bit on the podcast. When I forget what event it was, maybe it was D23. Disney or Pixar stealthily removed Adrian Molina as one of the co-directors or the director of Elio, and it was basically implied, and I don't remember where we saw this, that they're basically reworked the whole movie, which is crazy because they dropped a teaser trailer June of last year, June of 2023. And what I thought we could do is we can watch that teaser trailer from June 2023 and then compare it to the one that just dropped a couple days ago. Yeah. Because it's incredibly fascinating just to see all of the little changes and big changes. So let me go ahead and share that. Let's see here. Screen. Oh, shit. They're both labeled the same. Which one's it going to be? Okay, it's this one. Here we go. Let me know if you cannot hear it.
I bet it's going to be super loud. It's always, yep.
For centuries, we have called out to the universe, looking for answers. In 2024, the universe calls back.
Bring us your leader.
Hi, can you hear me?
Honey, now is a really bad time.
Okay. Bye. I love you. I love you. I love
you. Weak kid expressing his love.
Please state the name of your homeworld.
Earth?
Welcome, leader of Earth. We are the United Advanced Species of the universe.
I think there's been a mistake.
You're not the leader of Earth?
Sorry for the mix-up.
Commence memory wipe.
No, wait! I am the leader of Earth.
Why is your voice different?
I've always talked like this since I was a kid, which I'm obviously not anymore. But yes, I run the planet.
The trial of Earth can proceed.
Uh-oh.
Until then, as you say on Earth, okay, bye. I love you.
Okay. Bye. I love you.
You're the talk of the communiverse.
If Mom could see me now.
I know what you mean. I ate my mother at birth. But in moments of great success, I regret it.
That's a thing for your species?
No, just a me thing. Everyone was shocked.
All right, what are your initial thoughts on that? Just curious.
That was the original, right?
That was the original.
Yeah, the original one?
Yep.
Oh, there's going to be a Bad Guys too? I feel nothing.
Did you say, is there going to be a bad guys too?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, I just
hey,
saw.
What do you think about the trailer we watched? Hey,
is there going to be bad guys?
Is there another movie?
No, it was just on there. Sorry, it was just the ADHD kicked in, and I was just like.
Sum up your feelings about this trailer. Hey, there's this other thing I like better. Is this getting a sequel?
No, I just didn't know that movie was getting a sequel. I mean, the
I just
movie
saw that
cute.
last night.
It looked like, I mean, I would watch it. It's one of those like sort of it looked very cute, very very interesting.
I think what it was, what really stood out, I think that came out last year, and animation around that time. I think Puss in Boots had just come out or something around that time, and people were just like, "Oh, this whole thing that seemed to start with like Spider-Verse and continue with Arcane of like actually taking advantage of the animation medium in a way outside of one style."
Mm-hmm.
And it almost seems shocking. It's like, oh, now we have this one that seems very traditional and kind of bland looking in retrospect. I remember that was kind of part of the conversation. Obviously, we don't have enough about the story, but it seemed fine. It seemed cute. Inoffensive, I guess, is the best word I'd use for it. I'm not sure if there's anything that I would peg as interesting or unique about it. But anyways, as we know, they went back to the drawing board on it. They have a new director. The Bow and Turning Red director, I believe, is the one who has taken over. And they dropped the teaser. So let's take a look and see what we think about that.
You need to meet people. Make friends. Your life isn't up there, Elio. It's down here.
Huh.
You okay?
I'm trying to get abducted. By aliens. There's a sign I'm supposed to be up there. This mole is the exact shape of the Orion Nebula.
I think you should have that looked at.
Yes! I knew it! I knew it!
I'm Questa, leader of GOM.
Helix, leader of Aluminum.
And you're the leader of?
Earth?
Yeah, that's everyone. It's the leader of Earth.
Uh-oh. This is the most beautiful place I've ever seen.
This is the bathroom.
Such great heights come down now.
Okay, so before you ask, yes, Bad Guys 2 is coming out, but what did you think of the trailer?
It feels like a completely different story, right? Like totally different.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really interesting. We never ever, I don't think we've ever seen this happen to this extent where you get a trailer for one movie and then a year and a half later it's kind of similar scenes but just played out completely differently, just like from ground zero. As you mentioned, completely different story.
Ugly
in the
Sonic
first one,
would disagree.
Oh, that's a good point. But that's just a character replacement.
I'm messing with you.
Yeah. But that's a good point. That is a good point, though. Ugly Sonic. But I think it's interesting in the original one, he was like thrust into the situation, not of his own accord, whereas in this one, he is actively pursuing it for one reason or another. And I think that's probably going to be, I mean, that's the main thing, probably. It's going to be indicative of whatever his emotional arc is going to be. Maybe there wasn't just a strong enough arc for him.
Yeah, that's the thing that jumped out to me immediately, is that this one grounds you in what is his issue, right? And so I couldn't tell that from the first trailer, but this one we're like, he's lonely, he doesn't have any friends, and he's looking for another place to find that, right? Because he doesn't feel like he fits in here. The second trailer, you're like, okay, I understand what the themes are about this. I understand where his place is, and that connects with me and makes me feel things, as opposed to like just jokes that happen in the first trailer. And maybe you could glean that from the very first instance where he says to his mom, like, I love you. And she's like, now it's not the best time. Like, that is, I think that's probably trying to get across the same point. But I think the second trailer does a much better job of getting that theme across, that he's just lonely. And so that got me more interested in this film than the first trailer had a chance to.
Yeah. Apparently, that's not his mom. That's his aunt.
Oh.
Man, you look like a fucking idiot now, Jonesy.
No. I'm looking at the voice cast because I was like, that sounds like Zoe Saldana, and it is. It's Zoe Saldana.
Oh, is that Zoe Saldana? Or
I
Saldana?
think that makes it even more poignant. Like, I wish we had gotten that in the like something where he said that, because now we get, Disney style dead parents, and so now it's like, oh, okay, like that's where part of this is coming from, and I like that too.
Before, Diego, you say your piece, one thing I think is interesting just now.
My one piece.
God damn it. Before you say your... God damn, you threw me off. Okay, so this film, it looks like they've given some credit back to Adrian Molina. So now it's directed by Madeline Sharafian. We mentioned before, she did a Burrow Spark short. Domi Shi, director of Bow and Turning Red. And Adrian Molina, co-director of Coco and co-screenwriter. So it looks like they have brought them back in, or at least they're crediting them more than they did in like previous, I guess, information that we saw at D23. But Diego, what did you think of the trailer?
Well, because I'm reading it this as well. So it was supposed to be his mom initially, and it was American Ferrera as the mom. But then in August of 2024, they announced that she left the project, and so she was replaced with Zoe as Elio's aunt.
That's
so
weird.
It wasn't.
This is a ground up rewrite. This is awesome. This is so cool. Have you read?
I think it's wild that you think that it's awesome because, like, obviously, it sounds like someone wrote a full story. We had the director, and then all of a sudden he's just like,
"So
your
here's
idea
the
isn't
reason."
working. Yeah.
If you've read Creativity Inc., it's just very interesting to see how much they are very much about like creating something, then destroying it, then creating it again, then destroying it. And that's usually something that we hear through news stories and in the background. It's not something that we ever get kind of front row seats to. So this is just kind of like a really unique position from behind the curtain. It's just from a creativity standpoint, I think it's awesome. I'm trying to remember which movie they did that for and eventually dropped. It was the Gecko one. You remember that one when they were going to have a Gecko movie a while ago? What was that called?
A Gecko movie.
Gecko.
You're not thinking of Rango, right?
I don't think so.
Pixar. It was called.
Oh, was it a
Gecko...
Pixar movie?
It was supposed to be, but it never came out. Gecko movie about a Pixar movie. Maybe I'm wrong.
By the way, I know it's a little late, but did you have the opening play already?
I forgot, and I wasn't going to bring it up. But now that we have, you know what?
Fine.
This is the tease.
I was just asking because I was like, I thought we were missing something.
This is the tease. This is happening. All right, hey everyone, this is Inkhouse Radio. Let's go ahead and let's get going. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Inkhouse Radio. I'm Jammer, joined by Jonesy and Diego. Right now, we're talking about Pixar movies and Elio, the recently released teaser trailer, comparing it to the previous one and going down memory lane.
Did you ever watch Sons of Anarchy? They're like, I feel like Sons of Anarchy started this, where you'd be watching it and it would be like 15 minutes in, and then the title card would come on and the music play. You're like, what the hell? Like, yeah.
The one that I remember most of was the George Lopez show. The George Lopez show back from like the late 90s.
Yeah.
And it was like 9 to 10 minutes in before the opening credits of a sitcom. And I'm like, what? The show's half over. What's happening? The movie was called Newt. So the movie I found
very original name.
That was canceled. It was going to come out in 2011. I remember a lot of stories. I think there was chronicled within Creativity Inc., which is written by Ed Catmull, one of the co-founders, one of the original people there. He was more on the business side of things. And yeah, that's very interesting. There was a lot of stories that kind of felt similar to this, where they had to like overhaul and replace and overhaul and replace. And this is the first time that we kind of get to see a peek behind the curtain, as it were.
One of the things I do find interesting about this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It was just the idea that, so to your point about the Gecko movie not coming out, it is interesting. I'm curious why there's a level of commitment to this where they're like, we already spent X amount of dollars. We've already done this. We've already done these voiceovers with these actors. And we're like, no, we're going to take it back to ground zero and just a complete rebuild. And it makes me curious why. Like, who believes in? Is it this project? Is it just pigheadedness? Is it like, what is it? What is it that's making someone do that?
It's a good question. I wonder if that's something that will ever be covered in the red carpets and like in the interview junkets that they have for this movie. I mean, come on.
No, someone will ask.
Well, what if Adrian Molino is out there actually doing press junket stuff? If he's actually doing that, that's good and kind of gives an opportunity since like he's still involved in the movie. Theoretically,
you will get the most boring, bland milquetoast answer about why this happened.
With a kernel of truth, potentially. But Diego, I think you didn't quite give your thoughts just yet, so I wanted to make sure we got those before we moved on.
Well, okay, so the movie obviously looks different, and there's definitely a different. Seems like a different messaging behind it because before it's just kid gets taken and there's a trial for Earth versus this one feels like he's more like I need to get taken away instead of it being like a surprise and being mistaken for a leader. And this one, he is actually there and they're like, hey, how'd you get here? Who are you? Instead of being like, we have a purpose for kidnapping you because we thought you were the leader based on the conversation we were having with your mom / aunt now. So that's the part where it's a little confusing. I mean, obviously, I don't know why, but I feel like the first one was a little like the teaser trailer for the first one was a little bit more on the mystery side of things versus the second one, which honestly feels more like a isekai situation than anything else.
Interesting.
But I'm looking up at the production of Newt actually because you're bringing it up. Apparently, shortly before being canceled, the project was turned over to Pete Docter, and this is back in 2013 or 2010. So this is before he did
ascended to the throne.
He ascended into the throne. But apparently, people looked at it and they were like, it's an unlikely idea that really wasn't working. But he said he would do it. But he had another idea altogether, which he thinks is better. And so when he pitched this idea, which was Inside Out, the team was like, that's a much better film. That's a much better concept. Let's go with that instead of this.
And thus the ascension began. Also, that would be an interesting comparison. Does that just mean they didn't have any better ideas for summer or spring of this year?
No, I mean, come on.
Kidding.
The concept I think that was also brought to the table was that because the film was taking a lot of time to make, because there is, how Pixar likes to do little Easter eggs of future films and like their movies and stuff like that. There was a teaser of Newt in Andy's room in Toy Story 3. But then Blue Sky came out with Rio, which essentially ended up being the same story. Which was Newt's story was there's only 2 salamanders or there's only 2 newts in the rest of the world of their species. What do they do? Versus Rio's, which was essentially like the same thing. Like there's only 2 left.
I don't know. It didn't stop ants in A Bug's Life.
Yeah,
decade plus before.
Yeah, but I'm kidding. Neither movie did blockbusters. I mean, I don't think anyone goes back. What?
A Bug's Life?
Yeah. What? I mean, I enjoyed the movie, but like, are you really about to tell me that like that movie got like, oh my god, it's amazing. We need a second one because it never.
Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say we needed a second one. I'm just saying it did pretty good. It did really good. It did very well, especially for like the late 90s.
$363 million.
Yeah.
Right,
the late
what about
90s.
Ants?
That's a good question.
Because I mean, I remember watching both and being like, Huh. Okay. I mean, one was definitely made for kids. The other one was definitely much more for adults.
Yeah. It
Looks
made
like half.
171. Yeah, about
Yeah.
half of it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I was arguing, but I felt like I felt very passionate about it. So
You were arguing about the fact that like themes of movies with the same sort of themes. But I guess you could say the same thing about Coco and the Book of Life.
yeah, the Book of Life came out a couple years before that. I remember
Yeah.
some
Did
people
it?
like, "Oh, it copied." Yeah.
Oh wow.
I remember
Yeah,
it was
and
like, "Oh,
everybody
Coco
was-
copied a Book of Life," and I was like, "No, it didn't. It looks so different." And then it was very different, and I was like, "Oh,
It was
so good."
very different. Well, it's the aspect of, you're basing films around a particular culture, right? Because it was
Yeah,
very much
it's-
like it's a
How
Mexican
many goddamn
Day of
Christmas
the
foods
Dead.
do we have?
But those don't get asked to be copied. But you have one movie that resembles Mexican Dia de los Muertos, and like everyone's like, it's the same fucking movie. Why do we need to watch this again? We only have we have one already. We don't need any more.
What was that?
No more.
I was trying to remember what I was. It kind of reminds me of the Barbie thing, where it was just like, "That's two women."
Right? It's two women.
It's like, why do we need another? We already. Oh yeah, it was from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This is really random deep cut. So Terry Crews and Andy Samberg are like fans of this fantasy book, and in order to like solve a mystery or whatever, they have to like engage with the fans of it, and they were yelling out, "Oh yeah, why do we need another female elf? We already have two." That was it. That was the joke. But it reminded me of that.
You're not encouraging me to watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I never said I was encouraging you to watch
I
Brooklyn
know.
Nine-Nine.
I'm saying like that. If that's the joke, I'm like,
if you don't want to
I
watch
feel
it, it's
justified.
fine.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
What are we doing?
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. So, let's talk all about Arcane.
Let's.
This is a show that came out, what was it, 3 years ago at this point? 2021? Arcane Season 1?
Is that how long it came out?
Yep.
Yep, 2021. November of 2021. It hit Netflix. And I remember when it came out, I was nervous because I had been burned before by shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, by the Dragon Prince. Mainly, I'm exaggerating. Essentially, I was like, oh, it looks like it could be good. I hope it's not geared towards a younger audience. And both of those shows very much were geared towards a younger audience. And it's just like, that's not for me. And I was worried that that would be the case for Arcane. And it wasn't. Like, it was very much, an adult animated show, which I thought was very cool. And the animation was absolutely gorgeous. The music was fantastic. And the characters were also ascendant, especially from their source material, which,
that's not hard.
There wasn't a lot to go off of. Yeah, there really wasn't a lot to go off of. But it was kind of funny how I feel like I've heard it was almost like the opposite. Almost like the show came out first and the show was like, or the game was like, hey, let's make a game out of it, except just take the very surface level stupid parts of it and just put it in the game. It kind of felt that way. So I was a huge fan of the series. I thought it was fantastic. Jonesy, what were your thoughts on the show? What did you expect going into the show originally back in 2021? How did you feel coming out of it?
I didn't have any thoughts about it initially, except that, wow, that looks really awesome. And I don't remember, like, I knew people played the game. I knew it was a worldwide sensation. But there was something more about the show that grabbed me. So I was really looking forward to it. The thing that stuck out to me was obviously the art design. And then as you got into the show, the themes about the characters, their relationships, and the music, I thought were amazing and drew me in. Like, I still listen to that first season soundtrack all the time. And it's kind of interesting. Like, I wasn't looking for the second season soundtrack to do the same thing, but I have very similar thoughts about the first season versus the second season as I do about Gladiator 1 versus Gladiator 2. Like, the music is almost an indication of how I feel about the sequel, where, like, it's there, it's fine, it exists, but I don't feel the same way about season 2 as I did about season 1. We can talk about that later, but while I'm enjoying the second season, I'm not as connected to it as I was the first.
Let me just addressing one more thing. So far, as of right now, we've only watched up through episode 6 of season 2.
Mhm.
So you can probably expect spoilers through there. We'll probably come back and do a retrospective later. But yeah, so just to address that really quick before we take it to Diego, like for me, I feel like the music has grown on me a lot. But I also felt that way looking back. I thought I liked season 1. It wasn't until I revisited again and kind of watched through scenes and watched through the whole thing and then revisited the soundtrack that I'm like, oh, it became what it became as one of my favorite soundtracks. This one still is like, oh, it's fine. And then I come back to it and I'm like, oh, that scene was sick. That music is really great. So I think there's at least 5 or 6 really good songs so far from the soundtrack that I really like. And it's slowly elevating over time for me. It's growing on me substantially. So I would have agreed with you last week, but in the weeks since, I feel like it's starting to inch its way up for me. Diego.
Yes.
Our wild card here.
Yes.
You hadn't been exposed to this and only recently over the past few weeks watched season 1 for the first time along with season 2. Hold on. I'm laying the groundwork.
Okay.
And we had built it up, hyped it up, talked about it as like the best thing since, sliced bread.
Mm-hmm.
What were your expectations going into it? And how do you feel now?
Well, I didn't have any high expectations because I didn't freaking care much for League of Legends. Like that was literally when I heard it was League of Legends based. I don't really have any interest in this. I know people are super diehard fans of League, and like you always have like the competitions, and obviously being in the gaming culture, you see the little clips and stuff. Like I think the Worlds was just recently, and it was like a huge freaking thing, and everybody was all excited about it. And I was like, I don't really care for the game, and so when you give me stuff based on that, it was just an immediate turnoff. I had no desire to watch or to play it, right, or to even like be anywhere close to it. And so I kind of stayed away from it. I just didn't think it was that great or that big of a deal. And then you guys were talking about watching it, so I decided to watch it. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know, man. I just didn't really click. It just wasn't something that like I found to be entertaining at all. It was very, like there was a lot of jumping around in terms of like narrative perspectives and time. And like it was kind of all over the place. I just wasn't that big of a fan. And season 2 started to pick up a little bit more on the story. To the point where like I started enjoying it a little bit more, but it also suffered from jumping all over the place, and then some plot lines really got like super left behind, in my opinion. I don't really know what the hell happened with Jace, and like
that's being addressed in the new act, the final act.
I would hope so, because like that whole entire thing when he comes back, and then he has that little. I also was very confused about like the moment he comes back, he touches that kid in Victor's village, has the vision of peace, and he's like okay with it, and then goes and does what he does.
Well, we don't know anything yet. We don't know why.
I don't. It's deliberate. That's the thing. Where like I'm like, okay, well, once I'm not gonna give it too much judgment because I know we still have those last 3 episodes to watch, but there's kind of like I said, there's because of the fact that I know it costs a lot of money to make this, like it's significant amount of money to make this. It's probably one of the reasons why I said it was only going to get 2 seasons, because it was just, spending $250 million on 2 seasons worth of show where you don't know if you're getting those returns on your investment.
You just described streaming television.
Well, I know, and that's what I mean. Like, that's the aspect. Like, in modern day animation, obviously that costs a lot of money, which is one of the reasons why when the whole thing about AI came up, to save on those costs. Because, I'm not talking about this particular show in general. I'm just talking about AI in general, because AI is being brought in as this is how we can get cheaper animation and we can do that stuff. This sort of stuff is the antithesis of what I don't want it to be, because people are like, oh, I want more Arcane, but I don't want to pay that much money for it. So therefore, let's go to AI. So it's like kind of like a gateway to that. But obviously, there were certain animation changes that I liked a lot more in season 2, like when I went to the watercoloring stuff. That was really cool.
And the charcoal
paintings and like stuff like that, like different animation styles like that. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Amazing.
So I said, I personally enjoyed the payoffs that came from season 2 rather than season 1. Better. And I just wasn't necessarily like too connected to the characters until, like I said, towards the end, and then it ended on that cliffhanger. And I was just like, this fucking sucked. Like, thank God I have season 2 to go into, because you said it came out, 3 years ago?
Yep.
Yeah.
To have ended on that cliffhanger and be just chilling, waiting for that shit for 3 years would have pissed me off as a viewer. Like, I would have been, fuck this shit. Like, this is stupid. Like, give me some level of close, like, especially if you knew you were coming back, or I guess you didn't know if you were coming back. Like, give me a closure, because, like, there's a couple of other shows that I, compare it to in terms of, like, it's an animated show. We don't know we're coming back. We want to come back. If we're
they
going to get
did know
renewed
at
for a
that
second
point
season.
that they were
No,
coming
but that's
back.
what I'm saying. But give me, the thing is, with a show like that, if you don't know you're coming back, leave a little bit of a potential for a future, but do give me a closure on a 1-season story, because it doesn't give you that. It doesn't end the story. It expects to keep going. So what if it had gotten canceled? Then we would have
they
never
already knew
known.
they were moving forward. They basically were already greenlit for 2 seasons.
Oh, as soon as they started working on it?
Yes.
Okay.
They weren't
right.
funded by Netflix. They were funded by Riot Games. And they gave them the green light for 2 seasons.
A bunch of money. Okay.
Yes. So they knew they had 2 seasons that they were going to be able to get out.
And they only, because I know that it's not continuing after season 2, and it's only continuing.
Correct.
But is that because of the network being like, that's all you get, or because Riot themselves are like, we don't want to do anymore, it's too much money? Or
no, because they said that they're done with the story about what they want to tell for this one, and they want to move on to like other characters within the Arcane world.
Okay.
Or League of Legends
or
world.
within League of Legends world, right? Because it's not Arcane.
Yeah, League of Legends.
Yeah.
League of Legends, correct. So hold on, you need to explain yourself.
I will say one thing real quick.
Okay.
That ever since we started talking about it, and I've been obviously searching about the show, I've gotten a shitload of ads for League of Legends.
I don't get any ads for League of Legends at all. At all.
Well, here's what I think is funny about that. So, given that this was funded by Riot Games, I think it's fair to say that looking at it from 2 seasons, that this is an incredibly expensive advertisement, right? Almost like Cyberpunk Edge Runners was for someone like me. And so there are articles that talk about the fact that after 2021, there was a significant uptick in player count for League of Legends based on this show coming out. So I find that to be kind of fascinating. So $250 million, 2 seasons of a show, and then your players going up. I'm curious what that meant for them in terms of money. Was the juice worth the squeeze?
Maybe, yeah. But before we dig into that, Diego, so you
Yes.
kind of mellowed out a little bit. You're pretty incendiary in your initial correspondence about this show. I need you to explain yourself. Voice acting sucks. The animation is horrible. Explain yourself on those 2.
I mean, what else do you want me to say?
What does that
can
mean?
also take very bad takes, Jammer. I also can be a contrarian. Okay. I can also hate shows for no other reason other than that they didn't fit my demographic.
I've never hated a show for no good reason. I always have reasons.
Here comes
Diego.
Scavenger's Reign. Here comes Terminator.
Name one show that I
just named
didn't
2.
like for good
Yeah,
reasons. For good reasons. Those are good reasons. Terminator is boring and bland.
You watch 1 or 2 episodes and then said, I am going to just watch the last episode. And
I watched
that's
3
it.
episodes.
Okay.
No,
And then
he
I watched
did.
the last
He did the
episode.
anime challenge that I threw out, and like I think that worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And then Scavenger's Reign, I watch in its entirety, and I respect that show.
Mm-hmm.
But good lord, is it slow and boring. So tell me about why the animation sucks.
I was just trying to rile you up. Actually,
It worked. Well, because it's funny. I've actually been stewing over a lot of these things, and I've been like, he has to be fucking with me. Because, like,
No,
on one hand,
to the
what
point
you're
he went on
saying,
Threads.
what you're saying
Yeah.
here, Diego, is like, I can understand if, like, Arcane is not above criticism. There are lots of ways you could say, like, oh, you know, the fact that it's divided into 3 acts with gaps in between, it makes it feel like less fulfilling because like you're filling in the gaps a bit. Nothing is kind of spelled out as well and satisfying. Like there's lots of things you could say, but you're just like, voice acting sucks, the animation sucks, the story is no redeeming qualities, everything's the worst. Like it's just like, okay, that's
hold on, I got something. I hated the show so much. I bought the 4K version of season 1. That's how bad
happening?
I fucking hate this.
What's going on? Wait, why did you do that?
Was this a troll? Was this a?
Yeah.
Are you lying?
I fucking love this show. Yeah, I fucking
Are you
love this
fucking
show,
kidding
dude.
me?
I fucking love this show, dude. The show was so good. The show was so good.
Got him.
Is this
Got
real?
him.
Did you know about this,
It's
Jonesy?
real.
No, I didn't.
No, Jonesy didn't know. No, I figured it would be a good little play on this that both of you guys would get like.
God damn it.
He's on Threads like, wait, how do I engage with somebody that thinks the show is dog shit?
You know, because like I said, I can engage with somebody who's
I'm
like, "Hey, I have
not on
complaints,"
Threads, but I wish I would have been.
But I could never.
Yeah, so many people responded.
Oh my god! So on Threads right now, I posted this. I posted, "Hey, Arcane fans, let's say I have a friend who said the show's voice acting, music choices, and writing were all bad. Specifically, he called them infantile and amateurish. Basically, how do you engage with them in a productive way? 31,000 views, 321 likes, 229 responses. So
it got you engagement.
It got me engagement. It worked.
So what we've learned is that being a troll works. That's the lesson.
Yep.
You know, because literally,
do you want to be president of the United States? Do you want to get
Yep.
engagement on Threads? Be a troll.
Do you want to?
Last night I was looking through these, and I even mentioned in our thread there. I was like, "You got to be fucking with us! Like you are fucking with us. There's no way."
Did you notice I didn't respond to that?
Yeah, I did notice that. Trust me, I noticed. He's
didn't
waiting.
Respond to that because I was waiting for today to give you the big
This
reveal.
moment.
This moment.
Everything
right here,
has
right
been
now.
leading to this.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, Diego. Theatrics now out of the way. Tell me now.
The
going
winner of the
into
Oscar
it
for
and how that
2024.
went. Oh my god. Step aside, Ariana Grande. We got Diego.
The show is phenomenal. I actually watched it when it first came out.
You did have a little. Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You had a
I watched
little
it when
bit
it
of
first
a.
came out.
You had a little bit of a tell earlier on when you said rewatching the show, and I was just like, rewatching the show.
Well, I'm rewatching it right now with my girlfriend because I told her about how it's like one of the best shows I think I've ever seen. Like best like character development, best writing, like just in general. Like the story beats are like perfect beat to beat. And it's on second reviewing that you see those sort of things, especially like the Silco and
that was fantastic.
I'm gonna need a neck brace,
the
neck brace after this episode.
Yeah, that was great.
Go on. I apologize.
I love that reveal.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really, really good, you know, with that sort of aspect. And then not only that, but also like the emotional moments, like when she looks over, when like that finality hit. Like there's a couple moments in season 2 that I actually teared up. That were really, really good. Like the moment where she's like, "He's your dad too," you know, where like sits there and like that was a really big emotional hit. And the other one was when it has to do with the Vi and the Jinx storyline. Like that is the cement aspect of the show. But the one problem that I had with season 2, because everything up to that point was perfect in my opinion. The problem that I had with season 2, I think, is between episode 3 and 4, where I think the
Time jump happens.
storyline, the time jump happens, but it's the aspect of we see the crazy shit that happened. Like I think that's when Vi and Jinx have the sort of clash again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And there's obviously the Caitlyn and Vi storyline that kind of comes to a head about like, you stopped me from killing her. I wanted revenge. Caitlyn becomes essentially a fascist leader. And then there is Vi kind of just disappears, but then there's the warp that happens with the people going into the Arcane. And the same thing with the Senator. And so you get into it, and then all of a sudden it's like everyone forgot about what they were actually trying to do. It's not really established because all of a sudden you have no one's looking for Jinx. No one's looking for anything that was like prior. And now I think it's a year that passed.
Yeah,
a year passes. You obviously still are looking for that. It's like, for someone compared it to this, it's like, well, someone's America's Most Wanted, they disappear and like you never see them again. It's like, yeah, but this would be like Osama bin Laden-esque type stuff, because she literally was responsible for a bunch of stuff and they're just gonna forget it. And she was her image was being used as a voice of the resistance and a voice of the stuff. Like they're not just gonna forget about her or try to hunt her down, type of thing.
Well, they are looking into like all those cult groups, but I think they also have intel that shows that like, she's not doing anything. She's not there. She's not present. She's really in hiding. She's not doing anything. So it's hard to look for somebody who's literally not doing anything other than just hanging out in her lair.
Right, like if she was out there still releasing videos from like a cave or something like that, that would be a reason.
One thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think for me it was just the concept of like they didn't show the enforcers and all that stuff in the underworld as much during that part. It was more, it did the big switch where all of a sudden it was like, oh hey, like they went down there, they captured all those people, and then they put them in a jail. And then it became about the monster. It became more about, was it Warwick, right? Or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the
Monster.
search for Warwick. Yeah, because
who's Warwick again? Who's that?
The
wolf thing.
The wolf guy, the dad.
Vander.
Yeah, sorry.
But
Vander.
he's also, I think Warwick is something they call him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it kind of shifts its goals when like a bigger thing supplants the thing that they were doing in terms of goal, and that makes it a little bit unfulfilling. I think that I could see that. Something I also want to point out about this season in particular. There was a little bit in season 1, but people have been pointing out and calling this season rushed. I can kind of see it, but I'm not sure rushed is the right word, because as the show plays out, I never feel like we're just skipping from beat to beat to beat. It lets it linger. It just skips more things than I would like them to do. And I just feel like if they do one of two things, they either give an extra 10 to 15 minutes per episode or just have one more episode per act. I think that would help bridge it just a little bit more. But obviously we don't know how the show ends. And so we'll see if it ultimately becomes, better as, in retrospect. But as of right now, it is a bit of an issue for me. How it relies on you to kind of fill in the gaps a bit more, doesn't spell things out as much as I would like to just make those arcs satisfying. But also one thing I disagree with people are calling it too plot heavy. And I'm like, no, like to a fault, it's character focused. Like it's more focused on it drops plot things just to focus on character arcs. And I think that makes the plot point, like not matching up perfectly, feel annoying and inconsistent in quality, and just makes the character arc maybe feel a little less good in retrospect for some people, and they just can't place it. But that's kind of one of the strengths, I think, of the show, though, overall, is that it does focus so much on the characters over the plots. And, I mean, frankly, I could do without the Arcane and Hextech stuff. I don't care about it. It's been boring from episode 1, and whenever they have scenes, I'm just like, okay, like get back to the character stuff, please. And I feel like that's continued with this one. I did start episode 7 of season 2, and the Arcane stuff is getting more interesting. So I'm hoping it does continue to do that and pay off. But it's because it's in service of the characters. So
I think for me the biggest like I said disconnect was I actually enjoy the lore development of season 1 that you're talking about. The hex tech, watching technology kind of evolve over time, having that sort of focus on like this is where we're getting to and this is why it can be dangerous, and then having that whole entire plot line. I thought that was really well done because it sort of sets up stuff for sure. The season 2 element, like you mentioned, the fact that it does feel rushed, it is not. That is definitely the case. It feels way more rushed than season 1. It feels like because everything in season 1 was already established and they have to get through the story in only one more season, they had to pump a bunch of stuff in there. There's just so many, like every single 3 little episodes are different timelines, right? Or not, like different time frames. Yeah, different time frames. So it's covering a lot more time than the first one did. Like, yes, the first one you had when Powder and Vi were just kids, and then boom, you go into when they're now essentially teenagers, right? And then, it kind of stays in that time frame for the rest of the show versus this one where it's like very much jumping everywhere. But that to me, again, because when I found out that the show was only 2 seasons long, I was going to be like, but why? It feels like there's so much more content to cover here. Like there's so much more story to tell here. Like I feel like they put themselves in this hole to have to rush the story because maybe I'm looking at it from a long running anime show person who looks at the story and says, you could drag this out for 3 seasons, 4 seasons long, and have it be a very intriguing story without having to do all these time jumps and then having to do all that stuff. Now, I believe that they're also complementing this with books, right? Like there's going to be books and game stories that are going to kind of fill in the blanks from what I was reading. Like League of Legends is going to have like single player stories, kind of like DLC that will fill in blanks for story beats, or they're going to do the thing like Halo did back in the day or World of Warcraft did back in the day where they're going to come out with books that are going to be in the story.
Me. Get them. I love it.
So that that makes sense that it was done on purpose. Potentially
to fill in the in-between, to Clone Wars it?
Kinda, or to be like, hey, we have other content
that worked out pretty good.
I hate the Clone Wars. I don't like the Clone Wars.
It's just more of just like, hey, we kind of did this stuff, and then boom, here's content that you could sort of always watch and kind of come back to it.
I would hope that they are telling the story that they want to tell, and if that's a consequence of it, great, but I hope they weren't purposely making those gaps so that they can get them filled in by other material. I don't think so, based on the documentary that I watched on season 1, which is actually on the Blu-ray in the 4K set, and also on YouTube, if you want to check that out. It doesn't seem like that's their mindset at all. I think they are telling the story they want to tell. I think they could have afforded, maybe not financially, but story-wise, they could have afforded an extra episode per act. So like an extra 3 episodes a season. Like if they had a 12-episode season instead of 9, I think that would have helped to bridge things a bit more. Like I said, I don't feel like the pacing of the scenes is rushed. It's just all that in-between stuff that it just feels like it's rushing through. And if they could find a way to bridge that more significantly and better, I think that'd be effective. But who do I know? I'm an armchair quarterback, right?
Right.
So I'm not in the weeds of multi-million-dollar property like this, or billion-dollar probably at this point. Jonesy, you've been quiet. Any extra thoughts that you want to share?
No, I think you guys are pretty much covered it. I'm really enjoying it. As far as the rushed part of it, I'm using my own headcanon to kind of fill in some of the gaps. And so I think that a lot of this series hinges on the emotional stuff between Vi and Jinx. And so to have that feel like I'm filling in the gaps in my head. So that year-long jump that happened between episode 3 and 4 is a little frustrating, because it feels like to have them at each other's throats, to have guns going off, to have all of that hate and animosity between the two of them in episode 3, to just kind of like, yeah, now we're doing a team up. I think by episode 5, that feels quote unquote rushed. And to your point about,
agreed.
Yeah, to your point about like maybe having an extra episode, something in there, because I can headcanon why a year allows the temperature to come down on those feelings, because that happens to people all the time. The more they're in contact, the more that conflict is allowed to simmer, and you separate them for a year. And then because they do care about each other, love each other, that drops.
Yeah.
But to not have any of that on the screen is a little frustrating. And so
headcanon wise though, I think I can justify it headcanon wise easily, because to me,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm doing out all that work in my head. I don't want to have to do that. Because again,
but is that a strength?
No,
I'll talk on that in a second. Continue.
Because I don't think, well, I'm headcaning it based on normal people activities. Again, they seem like they were trying to kill each other. And so when you take things to that extreme in a show, I do need a little bit more work to be able to understand how they worked through that. And at least for Vi, we did get some of that, right? She was drinking, she was fighting, she was getting her ass kicked. And so that release probably helped with some of that. And then I would imagine that with Jinx, so now I'm walking through my headcanon, I imagine that dealing with Isha / baby Jinx is what cooled her off, and having to be the big sister to this kid is what did that for her. So you did see that, but again,
so
I need a little bit more.
Here's what I see. I see they had this big fight where they were trying to kill each other, and then all of a sudden Vi realizes, oh, this little girl wants to protect Jinx, and in that instance she sees that other side, that powder side of her again, of her sister, and there's less animosity because it's like, oh, all of a sudden you have to take care of that person. You kind of associate them with someone who's trying to protect them. And then on Jinx's side, oh shit, someone actually tried to protect me. Maybe I'm not as terrible as I think I am. And you kind of extrapolate those experiences, and there is that year-long period, and it cools off. I don't know. Do you need to spell it out? Like, do you really need to spell it out? And here's also another thing about animation and animation fans in general. Give an animation fan a 2-second shot of somebody, and they extrapolate all of the fan fiction. And it's just something that I think the fandom is really known for. So giving them more windows to do that, I can almost see as playing a strength to fans of animation, because they do that so often, and they are doing that.
I struggle with it, but I can see that. It's something I struggle with, but I think for other people that would lend to the argument why it feels rushed. And in some aspect, like I do feel that. But I'm enjoying it overall. Like I can't wait to see how it wraps up. The whole stuff with Mel and Jace and all of these plot points that are just out there waiting to get discovered. Like I can't wait to figure out what all of that is.
And now it's out. It's literally out right now. Like I almost spoiled myself.
Oh yeah, I got spoiled already by like my recommendations on Threads. It's annoying. Really quick, Diego.
Yes.
When did you originally watch episode 1, the first season, back when it came out?
No, it was shortly. When did Cyberpunk the anime come out?
I think mid last year.
2022.
Yeah,
No.
That's when I was
22,
about a year.
23?
I think it was a year late after the show.
Okay.
It was a year after the show came out, because essentially what happened was I started watching a bunch of stuff with friends online on my Discord.
Oh no, what's 22?
On my Discord thing, and when on Final Fantasy we were hanging out, and then everyone was like, "Hey, we should watch this show," and I was like, "I mean, I'm not a fan of League of Legends, but sure, I'll give it a shot." And immediately I was just freaking thrilled, because I watched this and then Cyberpunk after it, and I was just like, holy shit, these are two amazingly great shows. Like they were great shows based on other media, and everyone was like, maybe Cyberpunk should get a sequel. I'm like, no. You know what? It was perfect the way it was. Let it be.
Yeah, the
If you're
sequel
going to
was
tell
the
the
game.
story, yeah. If you're going to play a game or you're going to tell another story in the world, that's fine. I'm all okay with it. But this is different, right? Like I think like with Arcane, I was expecting a lot more, and I think it surprised a lot of people when season 2 came out. And they're like, "This is we're not doing any more. We're not doing any more episodes at all. It's just one more season and that's it." And it's like, holy shit, okay, that's that really surprised me a lot.
Yeah, same here. And but while as good as the show is, we know it's no Terminator Zero, so
Yes.
we'll go ahead and just end it on there really quick. I just want to end on one last thing I saw on Threads that was spoiler for episode 6. This is somebody, they posted this. First we had Powder, then we had Jinx, then we had Isha. Isha and Jinx vibed. Isha became Mini Jinx, and now Isha is Powder. So there you go.
So ice cold. I was like, when you called her, when you started saying that Vi saw Powder in Isha, I started laughing internally, like, gonna keep it to myself.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I did see a bunch of little introspection stuff about why, she's like, there's a reason why she didn't talk, and so that way she can't be a voice in Jinx's head. And I was like, oh shit, that's actually
Yeah, she can't twist around the words of this person because they can't speak.
and I was like, holy shit, that's very fucking, like, that's really good.
Yeah, I have thoughts about her. I think she's too cute. It's kind of annoying.
This has been a whiplash of an episode. I appreciate you bringing in the thunder today, Diego. This was
of course,
it was a highlight. Jesus, I was like, I knew he's smart. I don't know what's happening here, but
I knew he was smart.
You cannot tell me that as an animation lover, you don't love this show, because the animation is fucking beautiful, and I just like. Because
that's why it was so shocking
for the past couple. Because the past
see him
couple
fucking
weeks,
giggling at the keyboard typing that shit.
both of you guys, I felt like I came on the show to talk about an episode or something that we wanted to talk about, and I was the only one who loved something, and you guys were both just like, I fucking hate this. Like, this was the worst. And I'm like, why am I having to defend this freaking show every single week? It felt like, and I'm like, all of a sudden we get Arcane, and obviously it's a very loved show. I'm gonna be like, you know what? No, fuck these two. I'm gonna like literally be a contrarian just for the sake of being a contrarian, because they have no idea that I've never seen this show before. So here we go. That's why I didn't tell Jonesy, honestly, because it was also like,
wow,
he was also on that
spoil
boat.
it.
No, it wasn't that. It was just the fact that like, I also didn't know like how you're gonna react to it, because I didn't know how much of a, because Jammer seemed to be the only one that was like very affected,
like
by
freaking out. Yeah, no,
yeah. I mean, Jonesy is just like he's a lawyer. It's fine.
What the fuck does that mean?
He's heartless.
I'm heartless. Yeah,
he's heartless.
He feels nothing. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining me today.
wait,
for listening
you
to
this.
can't.
Wait, hold up. I'm sorry. No,
Okay.
you go ahead and do your thing. I was going to say the other thing.
Did your other thing?
So I was going to remind you. So we're up on socials now. So we've got us an Instagram. We've got us Blue Sky. We've got the socials. So if you want to follow us, be sure to jump on Inkhouse Radio, and you can find us on the Schultz, all the socials that way. All the important ones.
Wait, is it just so? Actually, I know you sent them to me. Hang on one second. I just want to make sure, because you were very vague about what the actual names are. It's all Inkhouse Radio, and that's
I said
Inkhouse.
that. I said that just now.
I'm about to INKHAUS Radio, just to make sure everyone knows that it's spelled.
So you're telling me that someone watching or listening to the podcast with that spelling,
because they can autocomplete it in their head. They might be watching it and autocompleting in their head as the normal house, and it might not be, or it isn't. So
it might not be.
It definitely isn't.
It might not be. It might be. Who knows? Who's to say?
Where can people find you, Jonesy? Do you want to share your real life?
Sure, you can find me on most socials at the Quasi Scott.
Diego?
You guys can find me on my socials at Will of Diego, pretty much everywhere now. I don't really post on Twitter anymore. I'm actually going to be probably deleting that account and moving over
Join the club.
I'm already on Blue Sky, so you guys have seen me there.
Hey, you can find me at AJ Cerner Writer on Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram. Not on Twitter. It's just I don't really do anything there anymore.
But you got yourselves a TikTok.
I do, but I never use it either.
I have a TikTok, but like I mean, my stuff is mostly my cat. So if you want cat videos of cats, just that's where you can find me.
I still don't want to get rid of my Twitter account because part of me is thinking in 10 years, shit's going to turn around and I'll be like, I lost my handle.
Sure.
No, you'll be fine.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk later. Have a good one. Peace.
Hasta lasagna.
Don't get any on you.